This training video will take a question from LSAT exam 75. We're going to disable the timer and we will practice with question number 14, which is the question that involves the claim that society would not be better off. And this is the role played in the argument by the claim question. Let's go ahead and highlight that. The role played in the argument by the claim. We will put that in yellow. We'll also use the question objective tool to find out other important information in the question. Let's go ahead and read it. Which one of the following most accurately describes the role played in the argument by the claim that society would not be better off if the government enacted laws requiring people to be polite to each other? So here's our claim. Society would not be better off. So let's not forget that. Let's go ahead and read the argument. If people refrain from being polite to one another, the condition of society would be greatly improved. But, our transition word of contrast, society would not be better off if the government enacted laws requiring people to be polite to each other. Enforcing such laws would create even more problems than does politeness. So, let's break this apart. We're going to take all of this sentence and we're going to put an if-then clause. Let's do this. So if people refrain from being polite to one another, we'll move this over and we'll say we're going to use the annotate tool to complete the if-then statement. I will use the fluid text editor and we'll say this. If people refrain from being impolite to one another, then the condition of society would be greatly improved. Now we have a claim here, and I'll take it right from the question. Let's just try and get society to this. So here is this. Society would not be better off. We recognize that this is, let's go ahead and cut and paste this. We have contrast here. And this particular part of the sentence is also what our claim is about. So just to line this up and let you know where it was. So we have the end game here. Enforcing such laws would create more problem than does impoliteness. Well, I would like to just go ahead and copy and paste this. And I would like to put here because this really acts as the statement. I'm going to go ahead and use the argument tool and the arrow tool. This is really a statement. And now we're going to give the reason because enforcing such laws would create even more problems than it does impoliteness. So this really is the statement part, and this is the reason. So at the end of the day, our conclusion here is really based on, well, I'll go ahead and lasso all this. We start with this hypothesis of this conditional statement. If this, then that. However, this society would not be better off. They want to know what this claim does to this this claim does to this argument. Well, it's a conclusion. So if you make this statement, we can give this conclusion. So let's take a look at our answers. Well, we find it in the conclusion portion of this. So it is the conclusion drawn by the argument as a whole. Well, this really talks about the laws and the people, and enforcing such laws would create even more problems. Let's go to B. It is cited as evidence for the generalization that is the argument's overall conclusion. Now, evidence really belongs to, we'll talk about this, ethos, which is evidence. But if it's evidence, then we can use this as the reason but this is actually the statement. So we're going to eliminate this. Again, it is cited as evidence. I'm going to say that this is incorrect as well. It is cited as an illustration. Well, let's go back to something. If you're going to, let me just erase that. If you're going to create an argument, then you have to follow this structure, statement, reason, conclusion. This one talks about an illustration of a generalization as the main premise. Again, it is not a premise. I'll use the line tool here, the arrow. It is not a premise. And then we get to the answer E, the final answer. It describes a phenomenon that the conclusion of the argument purports to explain. Well, it's not a phenomenon, it is a condition, and the conclusion is not trying to explain that. It's negating this situation for what would happen. So we're going to stick with our conclusion here, because basically all this becomes a conclusion. We have our statement, and why, we have our reason. So we're going to select answer A, which is the correct answer.